Ervin Gebhardt today, and what picture are we looking at here?
My great-grandparents, Gottlieb and Christina Gebhardt, with Grandpa's sister, which is married to Johannes Doschendorf from Ashley, North Dakota.
Did you ever get a chance to meet these people?
No, they're their children, yeah, but not their. I got the picture of the one that gave me the picture in that envelope. If you want to, that would be his parents. So
Okay,
we could.
get that in a bit.
And this is my mother's folks, Friedrich and Christine Oberlander. They came to the United States in 1998.
And did you ever meet them?
My grandpa, my mother, I can't remember my mother's mother.
Could you tell me a little bit about your grandma?
Grandpa was a tall man. They lived in 13 miles southwest of Eureka is where they homesteaded. And then after he retired from the farm, he moved to Eureka. And him I knew pretty well. He lived with his daughter Christine.
Okay.
Was married to Jacob Ekman. They had no children, so she took care. She moved in with her.
Did he ever tell you any stories about the old country?
No, he didn't. And I guess I could have asked some more questions, but I was pretty young at that time yet. He died in, I couldn't just say for sure, but at the beginning of the 40s.
Okay.
And those are my parents. They were both born in Russia.
Do you know the region where they were born?
In Bessarabia, and my mother was born in Postal, South Russia.
Did they ever relate any stories they heard of the old country?
No, not too much, but because, well, my dad didn't answer too many questions when you asked him some, but and mother was only 3 years old when she came over.
Okay.
So she didn't remember much from Russia either. So.
What type of person was your father?
What kind of person? Oh, he was quiet. He didn't talk too much, but he was a hard worker. He never run out of work. And Mom always, well, I had 3 sisters, and they were kept busy.
How did your parents express their emotions, such as fear or love or anger?
Oh, they were passionate people. They didn't get too mad and that they were too strict or but you didn't dare, get out of line too far.
When and where did your father die?
Where he died?
Mm-hmm.
At Eureka here. And he's buried out at Zion Lutheran Cemetery. Same for my mom. They were in the nursing home for 2 years together. Dad was in about 5 years. No, 4 years. And then Grandma couldn't take care of. Then he went to the nursing home, and then 3 years later, she went into the nursing home too, and they were in the nursing home 1 year, and then Mom died first, and then Dad was still in about another, not quite a year,
Okay.
when he passed away.
Do you remember which year they each died?
1983 and 85.
Okay.
Oh, this is the affidavit where it shows when my great grandpa Gottlieb Gebhardt married my grandma Anna Marie Weiss back in Russia.
Were you ever told any stories about their wedding?
Nope, they never. When they homesteaded in Ashley, North Dakota, they lived up there till 1914, and then they packed up and left for Fallon, Montana, and homesteaded over there because the crops, everything, nothing worked for them here at Ashley. So they farmed 60 miles northeast of Ashley, which is where they homesteaded.
Okay. And what are we looking at here?
And this is the the records of my grandpa Oberlander when they came to the United States. They came with 3 daughters, Margaret, Christina, and Katerina. They arrived in Eureka by rail on March 28, 1894.
Have you ever heard any stories about their voyage to America?
No, never did.
And did they stay in the Eureka area ever since?
Yep, they stayed. They homesteaded southwest of Eureka, and that's where they stayed. Where all their children were born, and the rest of them, and they're all gone now. They're all passed away. I got no more aunts and uncles on my dad's side, nor on my mother's side. Got a few cousins left, but they're twinkling away so slowly too. The oldest cousin of mine that my dad's side is got to be just about 100 years old now.
is this?
The what?
What document is this?
That's when my dad was born, and when my great grandpa got married to Anna Marie Weiss. In the years of I can't. That's, he was born at the age of 20. At the age of Gottlieb Gebhardt, born in Bessarabia, near South Russia, December 6, 1861, who at the age of 24 was married to Anna Marie Weiss, who was born in Postal, South Russia, March 15, 1862. At the age of 24, on November 5th, 1885, was married to Anna Marie Weiss, who was born in, so that they got married on November 5th, 1885, at Onskirk, South Russia. And this is an affidavit that shows that my mother was confirmed at Hofsixdal Lutheran Church in Campbell County, South Dakota, on July 27th, that's when she was born. She was born on July 27th, 1893, and she was baptized April 12th, 1908 at Hofsixdal Lutheran Church.
Was your mother a very religious person?
She what?
Was she a very religious person?
Yeah, that's one thing we missed church very little. Even though we had a drive with horses when we lived out on the farm, there was a country church called Salem Lutheran, and the only way in the wintertime you could get there was with horses and sled. And they had a barn there, and we got served. The pastor came from out of Loyola, so that served our congregations. And these are my mother's brothers, Fred Oberlander Jr., George, Ernest, and Otto. George died when he was at the age of 20. He was killed in a car accident.
Did you know any of these people?
Yeah, they're all gone, and some of my cousins are still living around here. And a lot of them are moved away, and some of them died already. I would say half of my cousins are gone already. From the Fred Oberlander family, there's only two more left. No, three left.
When you were growing up, did your cousins come to visit very often?
Well, once in a while, we used to come over and when Hofnungsthal Lutheran Church was still going out there in the early days. There was a church 7 miles out of town called Hofnungsthal Lutheran Church where most of my relatives, Oberlander relatives, went to school, to church out there. After they grew up and got married, Ernie Oberlander moved to Ashley, North Dakota, and Otto farmed out here about 5 miles out of town, but he sold out and moved to Leet, South Dakota, where I still have one cousin in Leet. So he's...
Did you have a favorite cousin from this side of the family?
Well, yeah, there were a number of them that I favored a little more, so that we used to hang around with when we were younger. But we didn't get to town too often because we were out 17 miles from town, so, and in the earlier days, you didn't get to town till, that's very much, till we finally started, until we got a car and get, then the Dirty 30s came along and there was no money to drive to waste on gasoline to drive to town. You had to scratch everything together what you could to keep alive. Till the 40s started coming along, and then things got better. Then you could buy better cars. First car we had was an old Model T, and then traded that off for a Model A, which was an upgrade from the old Model T. And then the next one was, when I was home, was an old 40 Chevy. And from there on we, traded about maybe every other 5 years. And these I don't know which is which, but one of them is Henry and one of them is Fred Orman. They were my mother's cousins. They moved to they moved to McLaughlin, South Dakota when my mother's sister got married. Them I never saw. Folks I think went over there maybe once, but we didn't get to go along. So.
Why did they move down to McLaughlin?
If I have been. Yeah, I've been in McLaughlin.
Why did they move down to McLaughlin?
Oh, why? I don't know. I suppose that's where there was a lot of people that from this area moved West River when they couldn't find no more land here, and then they went West River to Homestead. Because we had a neighbor by the name of the Wolfs. Two of their sons moved West River to Homestead, and they stayed over there too. They never did come back. And the one on the right is my grandpa, Fred Oberlander, and to the left is Chris Grintz, that was married to my mother's sister, Margaret. And they lived first they lived in Bismarck, North Dakota, and then from there they moved to Toledo, Ohio. They still have one daughter that lives down in Toledo. I haven't seen her for years now, but back in 1966, I think it was, when we went down to see her brother Clarence. at and then we looked her up. He lived in Cincinnati, and they lived in Toledo, so we went over to see her, look them up. They were still alive at that time, and then after that they passed away. And Frida, their daughter, lived there, still living there.
Could you just tell me a little bit about your grandpa?
The what?
Could you tell me a little bit about your grandpa?
Oh, I don't know. He was tall, not just too heavy set, but he was pretty compassionate. He really didn't. I know he lived up in the upstairs with some art chicks one time, and we'd come in to visit him, and but I don't think he ever came out to the farm that I can remember. And that picture is my grandpa and grandma and Gebhardt, Gottlieb Gebhardt, and my dad lived sitting beside grandma, and some of his brothers and sisters and their families.
And what's your grandmother's name?
Anna Marie.
Could you tell me a little bit about those grandparents?
My grandparents, well, my grandpa, my dad's dad, he was, in his later years, he went blind. He had diabetes so bad that he went blind. So, and grandma, I really didn't know that well to uh, what kind of lady she was. Or all I know is that grandpa had diabetes so bad that he died, and when he couldn't see no more. And that's a picture of my aunts, my dad's brothers and sisters. The one to the left is to the left would be Christina Ulrich, and the other one is Hannah Speck. Then is David Gebhardt, Reinhold Gebhardt, and Emanuel Gebhardt.
Did you ever know any of these people?
Oh yes, yep. But they're the Reinhold and Emanuel I didn't know so well, but Uncle Dave and Christina Ulrich, they used to come over quite often to visit us over here. Uncle Dave was a great gardener. He could raise flowers like nobody could ever raise them. He had a well right in the middle of his garden in Fallon, Montana, and he always had beautiful things. They lived about 3 houses from their church, and he was the one that furnished the flowers all the time for the summertime for her.
What were his favorite types of flowers, do you know?
Variety. He just had all kinds of them. He could grow the biggest eggplants you could ever see, you know. But they had all the water. When you have the well in the middle of the garden, you can do that.
Did you make a trip out to Montana when you were young?
Oh yeah, we went out there quite often. I still have one cousin out there that calls me all the time. She used to live in Fellon, but on the farm. They still have the farm, but she couldn't live alone anymore, so her daughter took her up to Great Falls. She just called here about a week ago. She called, and we talked quite a while. But she's not doing so well either. Then there's Christina Ulrich, oldest daughter, the oldest cousin they got on my dad's side. She's in a nursing home right now in Terry, Montana. And if things go right, I want to go out there this fall and to see him.
When you used to go out to Montana as a child, how did you travel out there?
Car. Yeah. Yeah, it's a day's drive. It was a day's drive from here to Fallon, where most of them lived. Then after a while, one of them, Reinald, moved to, he used to farm south of Marsh, and then later on he sold that farm and moved out to Warden, that next to Billings, where he had a big farm milking operation with and land that he irrigated, irrigation out there. And this is with my parents with the 1940 Chevy, the first car we bought after we traded the old Model A off.
Is this one of the cars you went to Montana in?
Yep. Yeah, that car had a lot of miles on it.
When did you learn how to drive?
Oh, I suppose. Well, I drove the Model A little bit yet, but not too much. More so when we got this one here. And that's my parents and my sister Ella and myself on there. And I was about 15, 16.
Do you remember why this picture was taken?
No, I don't think so. I just took a picture, I guess. See, at that time, my sister already worked in town. Maybe when she came home, that's when they took the picture.
Of your parents, who was the stricter parent?
The what?
Who was the more strict parent that you had?
My mother.
What were some of the things she'd do to you if you got in trouble?
Oh, I never got a spanking or anything, but I mean, you got a lot of scoldings. But and I remember when you farmed, you know, and Dad could always, you know, in the morning when we were ready to done milking and and then we got to get the horses in. All he had to do was just whistle and the horses would come running home because he knew they were going to get grain. And there was one thing, we never had to run around and get the horses. That's the way he trained them, and that's the way they just came home.
And what do we have here?
That is my dad's birth certificate and when he got baptized.
And this is from Russia?
Yeah, that's the original copy from Russia.
And what is this?
And that is my dad's certificate when he became a citizen of the United States back in 1941.
Did he have to study a lot to take a test to become
No, but he had to get all the papers from. There was a fellow by the name of Gebhardt that could write real good German and in the German language and things, and so he had to write back to Russia and get all the information and things too, so he could get his citizenship papers. Before he could get a social security card or anything, he had to be a citizen of the United States, even though he lived in the United States from 1998 to already. So
Did your father encourage the use of English at home, or did he prefer German?
he preferred German. My mother talked more English than my dad did. My two sisters, especially the oldest one, she prefers German to the English. He talks more German than anybody I know. But it's getting a little less too. This generation now, I don't know. It seems like they just don't talk as much German anymore as they used to. I know I don't myself. I should do it more, talk more German, but if you don't talk it for a while, then you sort of lose the contact of it.
Did your parents want you to learn proficient English, or did they want you to learn and use more German, just in general?
Well, I didn't know no English until I went to school. Everything was German. So then after you started school, and then things changed, and but we still talk German. We talk German. We still talk German once in a while. Depends on who you meet, or like today, like Ruben Wilhoff, the one that was standing behind us. See, when we were members of the Germans from Russia Heritage Society since 1983, and we have our own chapter here, and so we talk German once in a while. It's not as much as we should, but because the younger generation that are members of our organization, that some of them women, they can't talk English, German. They want English. So we have our meetings where our half and half we still have a German church service every year when the Schmeckfest is, and we're going to have it again this year. Clayton Schaefer from Buchanan, North Dakota, is going to be our German pastor that's speaking. for that service. I'm usually in charge of the German church service. I have to get the pastors lined up in the church and make the bulletins, print up the songs. And I don't mind it. I still like German church service. To me, they got a lot more meaning than the English. That picture must have been taken about 1944. We already had that 40 Chevy at that time.
And that's your parents again?
Yeah, that's my parents.
What types of things did they like to do in their spare time?
Oh, my mother did a lot of reading. And then when they moved to Eureka, when we got married, they moved to Eureka. They were out the farm 1 year. And then Dad would always come out. In the summertime, he'd come out to the farm, help me out. And they had chickens in town. He had his own chickens and stuff. And that time you could have chickens in town yet. So.
What types of things would your mom like to read?
Oh, they got the Staatsanzeiger. That's a German paper that they got. And they always had that. So.
Do you remember where that was printed out of?
Well, first it came out of California, I think. And then they finally, it was printed in Eureka at one time. And then at Bismarck. It changed hands a couple of times, so it's. But it was a good paper. It had news from all over, from Montana, all over. It had deaths, obituaries and things like that in it.
When you were a teenager, did you read it?
Yeah, I could read it. It's. But that's about the only paper we had was the Staatsanzeiger and the local paper once in a while that we had. And that's a picture of my dad when he got his citizenship papers.
And was his profession always farming?
See what?
Was he always a farmer?
Yeah, he was always a farmer. And then when he moved to town, he worked for, helped building mover, helped move buildings and things. Part-time. And part-time he went out to help our doctor here in town. He had a farm southwest of town. He went along out there, and especially during harvest time, he went along out there and helped him out. And that's my dad and his brother Bill, who lived in Glasgow, Montana. Uncle Bill's never had no children, so they came over once in a while to visit us.
Can you describe Bill for us?
Huh?
Could you describe Bill for us?
Yeah, he was a happy-go-lucky fella. He worked on the Fort Peck Dam. That's when he got married, and then they moved to Fort Peck, and he worked up there for all his life. That's where they lived.
And could you point out which one's Bill and which one's your dad?
The one on the left,
That one.
that
That one's your dad.
that's my dad, and then that's Uncle Bill. Yeah.
Okay. And what do you have here?
Here we got the history of my grandpa and his family. I listed them all in their age and who they were married to and where they lived and where they were born. And Godlip Jr., he got killed in a accident, gunshot accident. They were driving home from Hettering, and they had a shotgun along where they used to shoot rabbits or things for food, you know, and the gun accidentally went off and killed them. So other than that, they're all listed in just the way they were born.
Okay. Was it common practice to carry a gun with you when you went out to most places?
Oh, in the early days they did that, yeah.
Was it more for hunting or more for protection?
Hunting. Yeah.
What types of things would you shoot?
Oh, pheasants, you know, anything that you could eat, I guess.
And who do we have here?
That's my dad and myself when I was little. Must have been about 2, 3 years old. And that's a picture of myself when I was about 10 years old. Let's see, if I'm right, we took that at Chava when my aunt Elizabeth, my mother's sister, died. We took that down there. So,
Do you remember what the funeral was like?
the what?
Do you remember what the funeral was like?
No, not. But she's buried in the Chava Cemetery. That's where they lived. And that was my confirmation picture when I got confirmation day back in 1941.
What types of things did you have to memorize to get confirmed?
Oh, all kinds of Bible verses, and we had to go 6 weeks. We had to stay, and we were served out of Loyola Church past parish. Then we had to go over there, so that's when I had to stay over there. I stayed with John Fisher's, and for the 6 weeks, and after school, after confirmation, and after we went to confirmation school in the daytime, and in the evening, John Fisher and Loyola had a little dam on the north side of Loyola. We'd walk out there, go fishing. One night I got the fish hook on my finger, and so had to come in and go to the doctor and have it pinched off and pulled out. I'll never forget that. Or I had a buddy by the name of Cheeky Cullum. went to confirmation school too, and they had a farm south of Loyola. So Jake would take his dad's Model A car, and we'd go out the farm, pick the wool off of the fence, sell it so we could get little money to go to the movie.
What types of movies did you like to go to?
Oh, westerns.
When you were in confirmation, did you learn the scriptures in German or English?
German. There was very few. There was a few of them that got confirmed in English, but not too many. Most of them were German. The ones that got confirmed in English were the ones from the Loyola area, because the Loyola area wasn't quite as much of a German community as our area out there in the Eureka area. And this is a picture of myself when I was about 17.
What types of things would you do for fun at 17?
Well, we used to have a little store out for about 4 miles from our house, up on Highway 10, in the corner going up to Ashley. There was a little store and a service station, and so our neighbor's boy Johnny Yunt and I, we'd get on our bicycles and Sunday afternoons and drive up to the corner, to Newtown Corner, and there we'd meet some of our friends like Milton Schumacher and Johnny Schnabel and a few of them guys. Milbert Troutman. That's how we spend the afternoon up there, and then pedal back home. Time for chores. Yeah. That's a picture of my dad. That I don't know where it was taken, but that's our old 40 Chevy car that's on there, pictured on there. And that's a picture of my three sisters, Anna, Martha, and Ella, when in their younger days. Ella, I would say, is about 10 years old on there, and she's the younger of the three. So
We have Anna, Martha,
and Ella, yeah.
Okay.
And this is Ella and Anna and myself, back in our backyard about 2 years ago. So that's my sister Martha had passed away already then. So we had a family reunion here one year, and then we took individual pictures.